So when it comes to Tony Buzbee, we've went throughout the entirety of this back and forth between Tony Buzbee, the alleged Jane Doe, Alex Spiro, Jay-Z's lawyer, and Jay-Z himself, right? So now Tony Buzbee is in a situation to where he has some explaining to do, right? Because not only did the lawsuit get dismissed, Tony Buzbee had to hire some attorneys, not only for himself, but for the Jane Doe that he was representing. These attorneys come in and say, hey, man, you this whole thing up. We got to drop it. We need to get this dismissed. Right. So that's a little bit of the history there. We're actually going to go back and do somewhat of a rewind and see what happened leading up to the situation that Tony Buzbee has put himself in now, because now Judge Torres told Tony Buzbee, we need to see verification and proof that you were actually allowed to go through with this and that you were admitted into the Southern District of New York. One of the things Alex Spiro mentioned was, hey, I don't even know. Tony Buzbee's just over here signing stuff. He's signing his life away on every single piece of paper that comes across his desk when he probably wasn't even allowed to do that in this state. So we're going to go back and do a little bit of a rewind and see what Tony Buzbee was saying before and hear what he has to say now. Right. So first off, Tony Buzbee submitted this letter to Judge Torres. And this is what he said in the letter to Judge Torres. Your Honor, I write on behalf of the plaintiff Jane Doe in response to defendant Sean Carter's letter dated December 30th, 2024, pursuant to which defendant requests leave to file a motion pursuant to Federal Rules Civil Procedure 12 to dismiss the plaintiff's first amended complaint. We now know that did happen and was dismissed. Defendant states his intentions to move for dismissal on the grounds that Doe cannot pursue her claim under the New York City Victims of Gender Motivated Violence Protection Act in New York City Administrative Code 10-1101. Right, they're going to call it the GMVA moving forward because the GMVA does not have a retroactive effect. However, neither the Second Circuit nor New York City Court of Appeals has endorsed this reading of the GMVA. In support of his argument, defendant cites a trial court order decided on an unopposed record, which is merely persuasive in authority. All right, Lewis versus N, because I'm not going to even try and say that word. All right, defendant's argument as to the GMVA is unpersuasive as it is contrary to the law's primary intention to make it easier for victims of gender motivated violence to seek civil remedies in court, not as defendant would have it make it harder. New York City passed the GMVA in light of the void left by the Supreme Court's decision in the United States versus Morrison, New York City Administrative Code 8902. Morrison struck down the federal right of action of victims of gender motivated violence under the Violence Against Women's Act. All right. And we're moving forward. Tony Buzbee, he keeps going. He's not backing down. He also says the Supreme Court, however, urged local governments to provide a remedy to women like Morrison who had been brutally assaulted, as no civilized system of justice could fail to provide her a remedy. So we go through all this. He also says, finally, the defendant intends to seek dismissal on the grounds that the conduct alleged in the FAC could not have occurred in New York City based on the plaintiff's description of the residence in question. We now know it got dismissed for a reason, right? Combined with public records confirms that any such residence was located outside New York City, as defendant seeks to rely on evidence outside of the pleadings, which would transform a motion to dismiss to one of for summary judgment, and as discovery is not yet underway. It is respectfully submitted that the defendant's proposed motion is procedurally improper and should be denied. Well, we all know that that's not what happened, Tony Buzbee, right? So now we have this from Tony Buzbee. What happened? Shout out to Megan Coonan for this. She said, Tony Buzbee's lawsuit against Jay-Z was dismissed and it ain't coming back. Tony Buzbee took an L. And what happened here? In the matter of Tony Buzbee, the petitioner, the Committee of Grievances, the committee has considered Tony G. Buzbee's petition for admission to the United States District Court of the Southern District Court of New York. which was filed on January 29th, 2025. What? January 29th, 2025 is crazy. So they are basically outing Tony Buzbee and saying he tried to clean all of this mess up and they weren't having it. Per the committee's review of the dockets, Mr. Buzbee has appeared in cases in this court without seeking admission. What? Meaning exactly what it says. Tony Buzbee was doing things he wasn't supposed to do. And we saw this. We knew this. And it makes sense now that he would hire more attorneys, because I don't know what's going to happen to him. I'm not an attorney. I don't know how everything works with the bar. And him not being admitted, although he was representing someone who had a claim in the Southern District of New York, but it doesn't seem like it would be good. Let me read this again. Per the committee's review of the dockets, Mr. Buzbee has appeared in cases in this court without seeking admission. Therefore, the petition is denied. In the event Mr. Buzbee moves for pro hoc vice, I always say that wrong, or regular admission in this court in the future, he must attach a copy of this order to his motion or petition. So this is going to follow him anytime he wants to practice. He wants to do anything in the Southern District of New York. They're saying, hey, if you want to practice here, or if you want to move for an admission here, you're going to have to attach this order. So they're going to know that you messed up. They're going to know you didn't do the right thing. They're going to know you tried to circumvent or circumnavigate the system here. That's embarrassing, man, to Tony Buzbee. What else happens? So Tony Buzbee, he pretends like he's going to fight back. He pretends like he's going to fight back on this. And he posted this on Instagram. He says, hey, guys, I actually have proof that I was allowed to show this admission, or I did have proof of admission from the Southern District of New York. But what's the problem here? Let's read through this. And Tony Buzbee posted this on Instagram, which is embarrassing. Appellate Division of the Supreme Court of the State of New York, 3rd Judicial Department. I, Robert Mayberger, Clerk of the Appellate Divisions of the Supreme Court of the State of New York, 3rd Judicial Department, do hereby certify that Tony Buzbee was duly licensed and admitted to practice as an attorney and counselor at law in all the courts of this state January 17th, 2019, has duly taken and subscribed the oath of as prescribed by the law, and has been enrolled in the role of attorney and counselor at law on file in this office, is duly registered with the Office of Court of Admission, and according to the records of this court, is currently in good standing as an attorney and counselor at law. What's the problem with this? This has nothing to do with the Southern District of New York. That's the problem here. So when it comes to the Southern District of New York, this does not apply. And that's something that Tony Buzbee should have known and definitely does know. What did they say? What does Megan say? Buzbee posted proof of his admission to the New York State courts on Instagram. It does not include admission to the federal Southern District of New York, which is where most of his lawyers against Sean Diddy Combs are filed. As the top post says, the Southern District of New York won't admit him. And that's what we read earlier. And then also we have this. In the matter of Sean Diddy Combs, the plaintiff attorney Buzbee's admission to the U.S. Southern District of New York, it was denied. And we're going to show that here in a second, right? And what did Tony Buzbee say? He says, this is embarrassing. This is so embarrassing. Tony Buzbee said this on the 21st. What did he say to Judge Torres? I am in good standing of the bars of the states of Texas and New York, as well as the Eastern District of New York. One grievance was recently filed against me in the Southern District of New York, as explained in the attached affidavit, but otherwise I have not been the subject of any disciplinary proceedings. Well, that's about to change, I have a feeling. I was recently denied admission to the Southern District of New York, based in large part on the grievance referenced above, as explained in the attached affidavit, but otherwise have never been censored, suspended, disbarred, or denied admission or readmission by any court. I have never been convicted of a felony. I have attached the affidavit pursuant to Local Rule 1.3. Well, we have this, right, that we just read. So he was denied. He was denied, and now we're going to have a problem moving forward, because not only is this going to affect this lawsuit that Tony Buzbee had and was dismissed with Jane Doe, but it could possibly affect other clients that he had going at Diddy, possibly going at other people. And it would be interesting to see what's going to happen with this moving forward, because what if there was the threat to someone, let's say Celebrity B, for example, who was never named, and with this all being filed in the Southern District, or with him not being admitted in the Southern District of New York, what would happen if somebody had settled and Tony Buzbee wasn't even in a place to where he could pursue this further? But Jayz was the only one who fought. Jayz was the only one who stood by his innocence and said, I'm not going to let you guys, well, we won't use the word, I'm not going to let you guys try and get me to pay somebody and say I did something that I didn't do. Happily Angry Lawyer said that. Jim R was in the chat saying, I wish more people would fight like this. I wish more people would fight against the Tony Buzbees in the world, because a lot of these cases, people not only are bringing up false claims, but if you're truly innocent, writing a check is really the easy way out. Either way, I'll be interested to see what y'all think about what's going to happen to Tony Buzbee. This is not a great look for him at all. And as a lawyer, I can imagine that someone would be hesitant to seek his counsel moving forward. Y'all let me know what you think in the comments and in the chat.